Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. POMcast here, Stephen Willis on this November the 9th, 2020. 1 week from Election Day. We finally got through that mess. Thank God. Joe Biden is the president-elect of the country, and we can move on with our lives. Also, news came out today that the Pfizer vaccine has preliminary data has it 90% effective and not dangerous. So today is in fact a great day, and things are starting to look up for 2020, even though we're in the middle of a COVID spike that is worse than anything we have seen. So be careful out there. Treat people like biological weapons for a little longer, and wash your hands. Don't touch your face, things like that. And we will get through this. So obviously there was no show Thursday. They know around the SEC Thursday. No show Friday. There's a reason for that. A very big day in the name of Positively Ole Miss happened over the weekend, and we will head down that road in a couple of weeks. I will fill you in on exactly what happened, but it is an impressive day in Positively Ole Miss. We scheduled it during the bye week intentionally, so it's going to be pretty cool, and we are rounding the last few steps in order to buy the equipment for video and things like that. So it's going to be pretty cool. So thank you for tuning into that, and be with us for a few more months audio wise until we switch over to video. But like I said, I'll fill you in the next couple of weeks where we were. Now, you can follow us on Twitter at @TheStephenWillis or at Ole Positively. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast, or follow our Facebook group at Positively Ole Miss. You can hit us up on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. That'll serve you well. Whenever we start streaming, you'll be notified, and you don't have to wait on pins and needles. And you can also catch us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. We are also on several audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Pandora. We're also on things like Podbean and all the lower podcatchers that are out there, but we're not going to, if we went over all of those, we would take up the whole segment. So we don't want to do that. So Ole Miss comes into this week 2-4. South Carolina is coming into Oxford this weekend 2-4. They got blown out, just straight blown out at Texas A&M 48-3 over the weekend. Gave up 4 touchdown passes. They only gave up 224 yards. They had a problem stopping the run, and gave up nearly 270 yards on the ground. The balance that was 266 passing, 264 running has to be concerning. South Carolina, on the other hand, could not run the ball for a total of 50 yards, about 2 yards a carry, and they could not throw the ball at a total of 100 yards. They had 150 yards for the game. That's insane. It wasn't, let's see, they threw two turnovers, threw 2 interceptions. Let's see about fumbles. There had to be some fumbles, right? No fumbles, so they didn't put the ball on the ground. They just got physically outmatched, where Texas A&M gained 530 yards and South Carolina gained 150. Texas A&M had the ball for 40 minutes, South Carolina 20. First downs, Texas A&M 26, South Carolina 9. I mean, South Carolina had about as bad of a day as you can have in the Southeastern Conference. and now they're set up to come into Ole Miss. But remember the game before that. They had a bye before this game, too. So they had that time to get ready for Texas A&M. Before that, LSU beat the heck out of them. 52-24. It's starting to look like that Auburn game was an anomaly. Now, they beat Vandy 41-7, but I mean, unless you're Mississippi State, it's not hard to beat the heck out of Vandy. Beat them by 30 points. I think everybody has done that this year, with the exception of the Texas A&M first game that they didn't know what to expect. And Mississippi State. Everybody else is 41-7, 54-21. 30-point wins, like 33, 34. Pretty standard. So, well, the scary thing for Mississippi State also is if it wasn't for turnovers and Vanderbilt being Vanderbilt and self-destructing, they'd have won that game. There's no world where they wouldn't have won that game. You hit the upright on a field goal. You throw an interception from the 3-yard line. That's the tie right there. And a couple of interceptions led directly to Mississippi State scores because you put them practically in the red zone or in the red zone from the beginning, from the jump. Of course, it's all the downside of having a true freshman quarterback, and both sides had a true freshman quarterback. But every rep you take is experience that you're going to have. Ken Sills is legit. He's good. He's going to be fine. By the time he's a senior, he's going to be a hellion. He's going to be difficult to deal with. I mean, I've seen enough to know that. But, I mean, they've got Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, and Mizzou. Vandy's going to go 0-10 this year. The only chance they have in an upset is against UK. But the game is at UK. Nashville does get a home game with Tennessee in a couple weeks. So it's something we can look forward to. Well, as much as you can look forward to something like that. But what I'm saying is the Ole Miss South Carolina game. Ole Miss is opened at about a 7-point favorite. So we have a chance to see where that goes. All right, POMcast, segment 1 of the books. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, POMcast, second segment. Thanks for sticking around. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. The South Carolina Gamecocks coming to Oxford this weekend. And how will they react? How will it be done? Right now, it looks like Ole Miss is, according to ESPN, a spread consensus of 10 points pick. Team Rankings has it at 34 to 24. Numbers Fire has it at 38 to 24. So they are anticipating a relatively easy victory for the Rebs. Now, Will Muschamp is kind of dead man walking at this point. I don't know if money is there to fire a coach this year, but if it is, he's kind of done for. They're averaging only 330 yards of offense. They're giving up 450 yards of offense. There's nothing remotely that gives you reason to believe things will change. And from all our reports, Will Muschamp is a great guy, and I hate this is happening to him. But there's some very real problems right now. Colin Hill is averaging less than a touchdown a game. You know, Shi Smith has had a great year. He's got 60% of those touchdowns. 43 catches, 479 yards. He's looked explosive at times. But both teams are, 2-3 in the last 5. But it feels different. Both team has a win over Vanderbilt. Ole Miss also has a win over Kentucky. South Carolina has the better win. But just looking at these numbers, I don't know how South Carolina can score enough to be in this game. Remember, at the end of the day, Ole Miss has done well against teams that lined up like this type of system. I actually have hope for them against Texas A&M defensively because of what the other team does. They match up fairly well for it. So, if you look at this, Matt Corral's at 1,800 yards. He has a chance to go over 3,000 for the year, by the way. He's already had 18 touchdowns. That's 3 a game. Jared Ely has 6 touchdowns. That's 1 a game. Elijah Moore, 6 touchdowns, 1 a game. So you see who our playmakers are. And we have these second-tier guys like Jonathan Mingo and Kenny Yeboah and Dontario Drummond and Braylon Sanders and Snoop Connor. I mean, offensively, Ole Miss is where it needs to be. It's got the right personnel for the right system. They did a great job hiring that. And Lane Kiffin did a great job seeing that. Because let's not understate the fact that he could look and evaluate the roster and know that Ole Miss was going to be a fit for him. More so than Arkansas. I mean, as it's turned out, Sam Pittman has been a good fit for Arkansas. Getting Kenny Briles, or Art Briles Jr. or whatever his name is. I can't. Why did I say Kenny? It threw my mind off. But he has Briles and Odom as the 2 coordinators. And those are good fits with Sam Pittman. He's just kind of a focal point that is there to take arrows from people shooting at the offensive and defensive coordinator. Now, Lane Kiffin's got a little bit different situation because he came into a little bit better situation, Kendall Briles. I don't know why I call him Kenny. I have no idea. But at Ole Miss, this is a little bit different situation. He walked into having basically the offense built. And everybody likes to make fun of the Mississippi-made stuff in the class of 2019, but it's the class of 2019 that's kind of pulling this off, and the reason this is all possible. All across the offensive line, Jonathan Mingo, Jerry and Ely, it's all that class. You can claim otherwise if you want to, but you'll be wrong. Also, I believe Sam Williams was in that class. I believe Jonathan Haynes was in that class. So that class is playing, contributing, doing what they need to do. More so than 2018, more so than 2017, and more so than 2020. Arguing against that would be just stupid. It would prove that you don't know what you're talking about. So do not do that. Do not make fun openly of the 2019 Mississippi Made class. Do not make fun of Mississippi Made, because it makes you look stupid in hindsight. I know it's all funny to pile on, but that's not the case. This is the reason. Okay, we'll do this. This is the reason Mississippi Made became a thing. Everybody thinks it was because of a huge class in Mississippi that year, which it was. But it was mainly because the year before, the 2018 class, two Mississippians were signed. Tylen Knight and Quentin Bivens. That's the 2018 Mississippi crop right there. And that's why Mississippi Made had to become a thing. You had to instill state pride because you wanted to have a shot with those elite players, even though you were in the bottom of the bottom. To think you had a shot with those elite players thinks that even though it was so bad on, let's say, December 10th, 2018, or February 2018, on December 10th, whenever it shifted 10 months later, all of a sudden you've got that problem fixed and you're back to normal. It's problem ignoring. It's alternative reality. Everything is a process. Everything. There is no worst to first in recruiting. You have to build it. And after the probation in Mississippi, especially in Mississippi, we were at our lowest. And something had to be done to bring Mississippi back into the fold, and they came up with Mississippi Made. That resulted in a 5-star, multiple 4-stars at wide receiver, a rebuilt offensive line, Snoop Connor at running back. It worked. Good players were found. That was its purpose. Wasn't its purpose to get elite players. Now, we try to get elite players. That's how we got a 5-star to begin with. But it wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to begin to fix the bleeding. And remember, all of those players in that class, throughout their entire career in high school, heard that Ole Miss was going on probation. They were never going to be on TV. They were going to be a problem. Every bit of their recruiting was while Ole Miss was on probation. And if you don't believe that Mississippi State, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Arkansas didn't use that every time they talked to the kid, to where they heard about it every time, you're naive. It's almost as bad as the people that think that cheating doesn't happen in college football or college basketball. But that's the level of naive you are. But missing out on N'Kobe Jean to Georgia, missing out on a player to Auburn, it's because those players heard all about probation, and we were trying to build up pride in the state. Stay home. Try to stop the bleeding. And that class came through in a big, big way. So, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but that is the fact and that is the truth behind the Mississippi-made 2019 class. People love to lampoon it and say it was a failure. But that is because they're only cherry picking and spinning what happened to prove their otherwise agenda. It was all an anti-Matt Luke play. But thanks to that class, Lane Kiffin is here. Thanks to that that Mississippi-made class, Lane Kiffin came to Ole Miss. He chose us. And offensively, we're averaging 533 yards a game because of it. Or 541 yards a game. 325 passing, leading the SEC in rushing. Off of that Mississippi-made class. That's where the weapons came from. So, if you are willing to make fun of the Mississippi-made class, you're just proving how stupid you are and that you don't understand what's happening, that you are detached from reality. That's what it's proving. It's not proving anything about Nakobe Dean, but for people to think that we could go from Tylen Knight to getting players like Nakobe Dean in less than a year, you're fooling yourself and you're not being smart. And just period. We had to bridge that. And we did. And we did much better than we should have done. All right. Stephen Willis, POMcast, right here on Positively Ole Miss. Thank you for listening. Picks coming out. Not picks. Lines coming up in segment 3. Take care. See you then.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
POMcast, Stephen Willis, thanks for listening. We appreciate you spending your Monday morning with us. Big win for the Saints last night. A little 38-3. Just a blowout. It was 31-0, I think, at halftime. Drew Brees catching up with the fact that he didn't have minicamp. And when you have a weaker arm like Drew Brees has had throughout his whole career, and he's functioned entirely on precision, those lack of practices and lack of camp and lack of games caused a slow start for him. And you're starting to see him go to the next level. Starting to see him throw the ball. Start to see the recognition. I think he completed something like 13 separate receivers last night. It was kind of impressive. But lines this week. We start off Georgia -13 at Missouri. After Florida did what they did this weekend, I don't know. I am not ready to give up on Georgia, but yeah, Georgia's definitely a mirage. Vanderbilt at Kentucky. Kentucky is favored by 17.5 points over the Doors. I don't think Kentucky is 17.5 points better than anybody. And State was favored by 19 points. So maybe it's just voters having to be forced down that Vanderbilt can cover, because I mean, Vanderbilt and Mississippi State was the easiest money anybody can make. Texas A&M minus 13 at Tennessee. Two teams are going to want to play old man football. And I mean, it could get boring on Rocky Top this weekend. Auburn minus 13.5 at Mississippi State. Can you score 20 points? If you can, Auburn's going to take that line as it is. You can lock that in now because Mississippi State's not going to score more than a touchdown. Alabama minus 23 at LSU. That's a big surprise, but this is going to be a revenge game. Yeah, this has the makings of Alabama scoring a lot and scoring early, and it could get out of control before halftime. And it probably will, actually. Arkansas at Florida. Florida is favored by 16.5 points. Felipe Franks making his return trip down to Gainesville. Drove through Gainesville this weekend, actually. And I just don't want to bet against the Hogs just because the spread beater defense that is being built is kind of interesting in Arkansas. So I kind of want to see that. Ole Miss is favored by 7 over South Carolina. That line could have moved. I saw on ESPN it was 10. But expect tempo. South Carolina, like I said, they went away from the spread. They went back to old man football. And because of that, it's been a problem for them. So that will cover the games from the SEC this weekend. All 7 in competition. I think we're done with bye weeks. And I mean, it has a chance to be a fun weekend. Now, I missed most of last weekend. I listened to a little bit of Mississippi State and Vandy. A little Florida and Georgia. But by the time I got home, like 7 o'clock on Saturday or whatever, I was exhausted. So I just went to bed. And I woke up and the Saints just dominated. And it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. Yeah, this is one of those weekends that is probably one of the best case scenarios of any weekend that I have ever had. So, pretty great. But I'm really excited. The trial data coming out for the vaccine showing that it is more than 90% effective. I mean, that's good. We're still not going to see it until the first part of next year probably, or this whatever. But that vaccine could, has a chance to be good. Don't necessarily be an early adopter of it because, that's how I Am Legend happened. But it's there coming down the pike. And once that happens, we can get back to whatever the new normal is now after the COVID year. Because make no mistake, last February, we're never going back to that. That's never going to happen. Now, what this looks like will probably be a hybrid of that. So, it's worth paying attention to. So we're going to begin to wrap this up in a couple of minutes. But again, thank you. Sorry for Thursday and Friday with POMcast and Around the SEC. We were actually doing stuff for the channel those days. And I will let you know that in the coming weeks whenever we can let that be known. Once that happens, yeah, you'll see. It's worth giving up those 2 hours worth of listening time during a bye week to get. So It's going to be a lot of fun. But that's the show for today. Thanks for listening. I have been Stephen Willis. See you tomorrow.